Wei nodded. It seems we've become something of an inspiration, or a disruption, depending on your perspective. He turned to face her directly. The Earth Council has approved the establishment of what we're calling the Sanctuary Initiative, a formal program offering protection to persecuted species throughout the galaxy, with the Lyrosi as our first beneficiaries and partners. And they need someone to lead it. Elena guessed, noting the Admiral's expression. Someone who's demonstrated both the courage to act when action is needed and the creativity to succeed against overwhelming odds. Wei confirmed. How does Director Reyes sound to you? Elena looked out at the stars beyond Earth. Somewhere out there, other Lyrosi survivors might be hiding. Other species might be facing persecution or exploitation. The Concord had maintained a certain kind of peace, but at what cost? Perhaps it was time for a different approach. I accept, she said simply. As if on cue, the door to the observation deck slid open to admit Etlana and his family. The Lyrosi children immediately rushed to the viewport, their scales flashing with excitement as they pointed out features of Earth to each other in their musical language. We've received transmissions from other Lyrosi survivors, Etlana told Elena, his scales bright with joy. They've been in hiding, scattered across a dozen systems. When they heard that Earth had extended protection, that humans had stood against both the Dominar and the Concord. He paused, his scales shifting through patterns of deep emotion. They're coming home. They're finally coming home. Home, Elena repeated, the word carrying new meaning. Earth will be honored to welcome them. Celera approached, the youngest Lyrosi child cradled in her upper limbs. We have begun preparing the knowledge transfers we promised. Energy systems, medical advances, propulsion technologies, gifts that will help humanity leap forward by generations. But there is something else we wish to share as well. What's that? Admiral Wei asked. Hope, Celera replied simply. For too long, we believed ourselves to be the last of a dying species, hunted to the edge of extinction. We had resigned ourselves to merely surviving, hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. But you have reminded us what it means to stand for something, to fight when fighting is necessary, to build rather than merely endure. Atlanta's scales rippled in agreement. The Concord maintained a certain kind of peace, a balance of power between established interests. But true peace requires justice. Perhaps this new alliance will show the galaxy another way forward. Elena turned back to the viewport, watching as a small Earth Defense Force vessel escorted a Concord diplomatic shuttle away from the platform. Some bridges had been burned today, she knew. There would be challenges ahead, political, economic, perhaps even military. The Dominar would not accept this new reality easily, and the Concord's bureaucracy would resist change. But looking at the Lyrosi family beside her, at the children whose lives had been saved because one human crew had chosen to help when others turned away, she knew they had made the right choice. And if other species throughout the galaxy saw what humanity had done, if they too began to question the compromises and calculations that had allowed injustice to flourish under the guise of stability. What are you thinking, Director Reyes? Admiral Wei asked, noting her expression. Elena smiled. That this is just the beginning. The Horizon rescued one family and changed the course of galactic politics. Imagine what might happen when we start looking for others who need help. There will be consequences, Wei reminded her, though his tone lacked conviction. There are always consequences for doing the right thing, Elena replied. That's what makes it a choice worth making. As if to punctuate her words, the small Lyrosi child in Celera's arms reached out toward Elena, its luminescent eyes pulsing with what she now recognized as trust and affection. When she extended her hand, the child's delicate manipulators wrapped around her finger, forming a physical bond between their species, a promise for the future. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its serene rotation against the backdrop of stars. But something had changed today. Humanity had taken its first true steps onto the galactic stage, not as followers or imitators, but as champions of their own values. They had shown the galaxy that compassion wasn't weakness, that standing up for others wasn't naivety, that doing what was right mattered more than doing what was easy. No one had come to help when the Lyrosi needed it most. No one except humans. Inspiring others to follow where humanity had led, toward a future where no child, human or alien, would ever send a distress call into the void and hear only silence in return. They're floating the idea of allowing the Lyrosi adults to remain on Earth while the children are sent to a Concord educational facility for their safety and cultural integration. That's not a compromise, Elena replied, horrified. It's splitting up a family and putting those children within reach of the Dominar. The Admiral nodded grimly. I agree. But the Concord is prioritizing stability over justice. They fear that ruling decisively against the Dominar would create a precedent that could destabilize numerous other cultural practices throughout the galaxy. Then perhaps destabilization is exactly what's needed, came a new voice. They turned to find Atlana standing nearby, his translator having picked up their conversation. The Concord has maintained peace by preserving the status quo, the Lyrosi continued. But peace without justice is merely the absence of resistance. Perhaps it is time for a different approach. Admiral Wei studied him curiously. What do you propose? A new alliance, Atlana replied simply, not based on compromise or cultural relativism, but on shared principles. The Lyrosi have technologies and knowledge we have kept hidden from the Dominar for generations. We would share these with humanity. Not weapons, but advances in energy, medicine, and propulsion that would benefit your people enormously. In exchange for protection, the Admiral asked. In exchange for partnership, Atlana corrected. Humanity has shown it possesses something many older civilizations have lost: the moral courage to act when action is needed, regardless of political convenience. We believe the galaxy needs this quality more than it needs another species that follows Concord protocols while children die. When the proceedings resumed, Admiral Wei requested permission to make an announcement. The Concord arbitrators, sensing a possible resolution, granted it readily. Earth has reached a decision regarding this matter, the Admiral stated formally. As of this moment, we are extending full diplomatic recognition and protection to the Lyrosi people, not merely the individuals present here today, but to all survivors of their species wherever they may be found. The Dominar representatives rose in protest, but Admiral Wei continued, his voice cutting through their objections. Furthermore, Earth and the Lyrosi have established a formal alliance of mutual benefit and protection. Any action against Lyrosi individuals will be considered an action against Earth itself. The lead Concord arbitrator's crystalline features registered shock. Admiral Wei, this unilateral action circumvents the Concord's arbitration process. There will be consequences. We are aware, Wei replied calmly. But Earth will not participate in a process that treats sentient beings as harvestable resources. If the Concord cannot uphold its own charter's commitment to the rights of all sentient life, then perhaps the Concord is not the community humanity believed it was joining. The chamber erupted in chaos. Dominar representatives threatening economic sanctions, Concord arbitrators warning of diplomatic isolation, Earth delegates arguing among themselves. Through it all, Elena watched Atlana and his family, their scales shifting through patterns he now recognized as hope mingled with concern. Will your government truly stand behind this? Atlana asked her quietly. The consequences could be severe. Elena gestured toward the Earth observers with their blue ribbons. Look around you. The people have already decided. When they heard your story, when they understood what was at stake, they made their choice, not out of political calculation, but because it was right. 3 days later, Elena stood with Admiral Wei on the observation deck of the Geneva platform. Below them, Earth turned serenely, seemingly unchanged by the diplomatic earthquake that had just reshaped humanity's place in the galactic community. The Dominar have withdrawn their diplomatic mission, Wei informed her. They're threatening trade embargoes, military demonstrations at our borders. The Concord has formally censured Earth for disruptive unilateralism and suspended our voting rights in the Council. And yet we've received messages from 17 individual worlds expressing private support, Elena noted, including 3 Concord member species who say they've long been uncomfortable with Dominar practices but lacked the political will to challenge them. Admiral Way stood. Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Survey vessel Horizon, you and your guests are welcome to these proceedings. The formality of his greeting suggested this was being recorded for posterity. Elena played along, leading the Lyrosi to their designated seats. Thank you, Admiral. May I present Atlana, Solara, and their children, Terian, Lyran, Nelissa, and Vestin of the Lyrosi people. The largest of the Dominar representatives slammed a clawed hand on the table, causing everyone to flinch. These are not people, it snarled through its translator. They are biological resources subject to legitimate harvesting rights established by the Dominar hierarchy centuries before humans achieved spaceflight. Before Admiral Way could respond, the lead Concord arbitrator, a tall, willowy being with crystalline features, raised a hand for silence. These proceedings will maintain decorum, the arbitrator stated. We are here to resolve a matter of significant galactic importance. The facts, as presented to the Concord Council, are these. A human vessel intervened in a pursuit involving an unregistered species, bringing members of that species to Earth against explicit Concord directives. The Dominar hierarchy claims prior rights to the Lyrosi based on traditional hunting privileges. Earth claims humanitarian protection has been extended. All parties will have the opportunity to present their case. Admiral Way stood. Earth would like to begin by questioning the very premise of these proceedings. The idea that sentient beings can be classified as biological resources subject to harvesting is fundamentally incompatible with the principles that Earth brings to the galactic community. The Dominar representative hissed. Your principles are irrelevant. The Concord has recognized Dominar harvesting rights for centuries. Your species' recent arrival does not invalidate established galactic law. And yet, Admiral Way continued calmly. The Concord Charter itself, which Earth signed in good faith, contains explicit protections for sentient species. Article 17 states that all sentient beings possess inherent rights to life and self-determination. The Lyrosi clearly meet any reasonable definition of sentience. The Concord arbitrator nodded. This is correct. However, the Charter also contains provisions respecting established cultural practices of member civilizations. The question before us is one of competing valid principles. Elena watched the back and forth with growing frustration. They were debating legal technicalities while living beings, children, sat before them, their very existence treated as a diplomatic inconvenience. If I may address the gathering, Atlana said suddenly, his translator rendering his musical language into precise, formal English. All eyes turned to the Lyrosi, whose scales were shifting through patterns of dignified blue and gold. The Concord prides itself on being the civilization of laws and principles, he began. Yet when my family sent distress calls as our ship failed, when our children faced death in the cold of space, it was not Concord vessels that responded. It was not the Dominar, who claim we are so valuable as resources. It was humans, newcomers to your community, possessing fraction of your technology, who risked everything to save strangers. The chamber was silent as Atlana continued. We did not ask to become a diplomatic incident. We asked only to live, to ensure our children would have a future. Is this not the most fundamental right of any sentient species? The right to exist. The smallest of the Dominar representatives leaned forward. Existence is not a right. It is earned through strength. The weak serve the strong. This is the natural order. The Lyrosi refused to share their advanced technologies, hoarding knowledge that could benefit the galaxy. Their genetic harvesting is simply the price of their selfishness. Atlana's scales darkened. We refuse to share technologies that would become weapons in your hands. We have seen how the Dominar expand their hierarchy, through conquest and subjugation. Would any responsible species willingly arm those who would use such power for domination? The debate continued for hours, legal arguments intertwining with philosophical ones. Elena observed that the Earth representatives, while diplomatically skilled, seemed increasingly frustrated by the Concord's reluctance to take a clear moral stance. The arbitrators repeatedly referred to balancing competing interests and respecting diverse cultural perspectives. Finally, Admiral Wei requested a brief recess. As the delegates dispersed for refreshments, he pulled Elena aside. "This isn't going well," he said quietly. "The Concord is looking for a compromise that saves face for everyone." Elena nodded, her expression neutral despite the tension she felt. The Geneva platform was Earth's primary diplomatic facility for extraterrestrial matters. The choice of location suggested this was being treated as an international incident, rather than a simple military disciplinary matter. "Any word on the Dominar?" she asked. "2 Dominar diplomatic vessels entered the system 6 hours ago," Kai replied. "They're currently in a holding pattern near Mars. The Concorde has also sent a delegation. They arrived yesterday." So all the players were assembling. Whatever happened next would shape humanity's relationship with the galactic community for years to come. "Commander," Maya said hesitantly, "there's something else you should see." She transferred a feed to the main view screen, a news broadcast from Earth. The reporter stood before a massive gathering in what appeared to be Times Square in New York, thousands of people holding signs and banners. Elena's eyes widened as she read some of them. "Sanctuary for the ELWAROSI. Humanity stands for justice. No surrender to dominar tyranny." Similar scenes played out in cities across the globe. London, Tokyo, Nairobi, Sydney. People united in support of the refugees the Horizon had rescued. "It seems word of our mission has spread," Darius observed, joining Elena at the view screen. "How?" Elena wondered aloud. This was classified information. "The Earth Council held an emergency public session yesterday," Maya explained. "The debate was broadcast globally. When the Dominar representatives demanded the return of the Lyrosi as biological resources, well, people had opinions about that." Elena felt a surge of pride in her species. Whatever political complications their actions had created, the people of Earth understood what was at stake on a fundamental human level. "The Lyrosi should see this," she said. "Let them know they're not alone." As the Horizon docked with the Geneva platform, Elena and her senior officers prepared to disembark with their Lyrosi guests. Atlanta and his family had been provided with appropriate environmental suits that would protect them during the transfer and accommodate their physiological needs. "Are you ready for this?" Elena asked Atlanta as they gathered near the airlock. The Lyrosi's scales shifted through thoughtful patterns of blue and gold. "We have faced extinction, Commander. A diplomatic meeting seems a small challenge by comparison." His faceted eyes studied her. "You are concerned for us." "And for Earth," Elena admitted. "The decisions made today will have far-reaching consequences." "Then perhaps it is time we shared something with you," Atlanta said, his translator conveying the solemnity in his musical language. "Something we have not yet revealed." Elena raised an eyebrow questioningly. "The Lyrosi were once numerous," Atlanta began. "Our civilization spanned several star systems. We were not conquerors or warriors, but explorers and creators. The Dominar began hunting us not merely for our biological components, but because we refused to share certain technologies with them. Technologies we believed would be misused." "What kind of technologies?" "Ways to manipulate quantum energy fields on a vast scale, to harness the fundamental forces of the universe. In the right hands, these would bring prosperity and advancement. In the wrong hands—" Atlanta's scales darkened. "Weapons beyond imagination." Elena absorbed this new information. "You're saying your people have knowledge that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Knowledge that we have kept hidden, scattered among the few of us who remain. knowledge that we would share with those who would use it wisely. Atlanta's scales shifted to a determined gold, with those who risked everything to save strangers when others turned away. Before Elena could respond, the airlock signaled that docking was complete. It was time to face whatever awaited them on the other side. The diplomatic chamber of the Geneva platform was imposing, a vast circular room with a central table surrounded by tiered seating for observers and advisors. Admiral Wei and the Earth Council representatives occupied one section of the table. Opposite them sat the Dominar delegation, three massive reptilian beings whose armor clinked softly as they shifted in specially reinforced chairs. Between them, a delegation of Concord officials observed with expressions of careful neutrality. These were beings from various species, all wearing the distinctive blue-green robes that marked them as Concord arbitrators. When Elena entered with the Lyrosi family, a hush fell over the room. She noted with interest that many of the human observers, and even some council members, wore small blue ribbons, a symbol of solidarity with the refugees that had apparently emerged from the public demonstrations. Acknowledged. All stations, prepare for momentary systems failure. Helm, plot an escape course that takes us directly past the dreadnought after the field activates. The Horizon continued its seemingly desperate flight through the asteroid field, allowing the Dominar ships to think they were cornering their prey. When the dreadnought moved into position to deliver the final blow, Elena gave the order. Now, in engineering, Atlanta and Celera channeled their natural energy manipulation abilities through the modified systems. A wave of disruptive energy burst from the Horizon in all directions, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating to sensitive electronic systems. The effect on the Dominar dreadnought was immediate and dramatic. Its weapon systems went dark, engines failed, and it began to drift helplessly, narrowly avoiding collision with a massive asteroid. The smaller Dominar vessels fared somewhat better due to their distance, but still experienced significant systems failures. The Horizon wasn't immune to the disruption. Bridge lights flickered, controls temporarily froze, and the artificial gravity wavered. But as planned, the effects were brief, and the ship's core systems recovered quickly. Go, Elena ordered as soon as the helm controls responded. Maximum speed, right past the dreadnought. The Horizon surged forward, its engines pushing to emergency levels as it shot past the disabled Dominar flagship. Behind them, the hunting fleet struggled to restore their systems and regroup. We've broken through their formation, Kai reported excitedly. Jump point calculations in progress. Status of the Dominar ships. The dreadnought is completely disabled. Looks like it will take them hours to restore full functionality. The smaller vessels are recovering faster, already beginning pursuit, but they're scattered and disorganized. We'll take the lead we've got, Elena said. Set course for Earth, emergency speed. Let's bring our guests home. As the Horizon raced away from the Kepler system, Elena visited engineering to check on Atlanta and Celera. The two Lyrosi were exhausted but unharmed, their scales dimmed but still showing healthy patterns. Your plan worked perfectly, Elena told them. The disruption field exceeded all expectations. It was your strategy that made it successful, Atlanta replied, using their confidence against them, drawing them into a position where the field would have maximum effect. His scales shifted to an admiring purple. Your species continues to surprise us, Commander Reyes. You lack our natural abilities and the advanced technology of the Dominar, yet you prevail through creativity and courage. It's what humans do, Elena said with a small smile. We make up for what we lack with what we have. As they continued their journey to Earth, Elena knew they had won another victory, but the final battle lay ahead. The Dominar would regroup and pursue. The Concorde would demand explanations. Earth itself might still be divided on whether to grant sanctuary to the refugees, but they had proven once again that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or natural abilities, but the determination to do what was right, the creativity to find a way when none seemed possible, and the courage to stand against overwhelming odds. And perhaps, Elena thought as she watched the Lyrosi family gather in grateful celebration, that was exactly the quality the galaxy needed most. New Alliance. The Horizon entered Earth orbit 3 days later, escorted by a squadron of Earth Defense Force vessels that had intercepted them at the edge of the solar system. Elena stood on the bridge, watching the blue-green planet turn below them, its familiar continents partially obscured by swirling white clouds. "We've received docking instructions," Maya reported. "We're to proceed to the Geneva space platform. Admiral Wei and the Earth Council representatives will meet us there." "Will it work without the quantum filaments of the nebula?" "Less effectively, but yes. It would disable their ships temporarily, perhaps long enough for you to slip past their blockade." Elena nodded. "Work with Darius. Make it happen." As Etlana hurried to engineering, Elena returned to the bridge. The tactical display showed the Dominar vessels arranged in a hunting formation, closing in from multiple vectors to cut off all possible escape routes. "They're hailing us," Maya reported. "Put them through." The view screen flickered to show a Dominar commander, a massive reptilian being with overlapping armor plates and vertical pupils in yellow eyes. When it spoke, the translator struggled with the guttural language. "Human vessel, you have stolen property belonging to the Dominar hierarchy. Return the Lyrosi specimens immediately, or we will destroy your ship and recover them from your debris." Elena met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "The Lyrosi are under our protection. They are sentient beings, not property. We will not surrender them to be slaughtered." The Dominar's eyes narrowed. "Protection? Your species is barely spacefaring. You have no standing in the Concord. You have no authority to grant protection to any species. We don't need authority to do what's right," Elena replied. "And we're more capable than you might think." The Dominar commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 1 standard hour to surrender the specimens. After that, we will take them by force." The transmission cut off. "Tactical assessment?" Elena asked. Kai's expression was grim. 7 ships, including that dreadnought. Even with our enhanced systems, we don't stand a chance in direct combat. Then we don't fight directly. Status of Atlanta's disruption field. Darius reports they need at least 40 minutes to complete the modifications. Elena studied the tactical display, mind racing. The Dominar expect us to either surrender or try to run, probably making a desperate dash for Earth. We need to do something unexpected. She pointed to a nearby star system on the display. "What's here?" "Kepler 438, Kai replied. "Uninhabited system, but it has a particularly dense asteroid belt and strong solar radiation." "Perfect. Set course for the Kepler system. Full speed." The crew exchanged confused glances, but followed orders. The Horizon banked sharply, accelerating away from Earth and toward the nearby star system. "Commander," Maya said hesitantly, "we're moving away from Earth." "Exactly. The Dominar will assume we're either running scared or looking for a tactical advantage. Either way, they'll follow. And that asteroid belt might give us just what we need, cover to deploy our surprise." As predicted, the Dominar fleet adjusted course to pursue, spreading out to maintain their encirclement as the Horizon fled toward the Kepler system. "They're keeping their distance," Kai noted. "Staying just out of weapons range, but close enough to prevent us from jumping to hyperspace." "They're toying with us," Elena replied, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. "Let's use that confidence against them." The next 30 minutes were tense as the Horizon led its pursuers toward the dense asteroid belt of Kepler 438. In engineering, Darius and the Lyrosi worked frantically to complete the modifications for the disruption field. "Entering the asteroid belt now," the helm officer reported. "Reduce speed," Elena ordered. "Make it look like we're struggling to navigate the field." The Horizon slowed, weaving cautiously between the tumbling rocks as if searching for a place to hide. The Dominar fleet followed, spreading out to prevent escape. "Disruption field modifications complete," Darius reported from engineering. "But Commander, There's a catch. We can only generate enough power for a single burst. After that, our modified systems will burn out. Then we'll make it count, Elena replied. Bring us deeper into the field. Find the densest cluster of asteroids you can. As they navigated deeper into the asteroid belt, the Dominar ships adjusted their formation, becoming more aggressive in their pursuit. Their leader grew impatient, launching occasional weapons fire that shattered nearby asteroids, creating hazardous debris fields. They're hurting us, Kai realized, using the belt to their advantage. Let them think so, Elena said calmly. How close is the dreadnought? 8,000 kilometers in closing. They seem to be positioning it to block our most likely escape vector. Perfect. Elena opened a channel to engineering. Atlana, on my mark, activate the disruption field. Target it specifically at the dreadnought. Understood, Commander. But be warned, the field will affect all electronic systems in its radius, including some of our own. We will experience temporary power fluctuations. I'm considering all options, Admiral Way said sharply. The situation is complex. The Concord Council is convening an emergency session to discuss this incident. Earth's relationship with the galactic community is at stake. With all due respect, Admiral, if Earth turns these refugees over to the Dominar, what does that say about us as a species? About our values? The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Continue your course to Earth, Commander. Maximum speed. I want detailed reports on everything that's happened, including all interactions with both the Lyrosi and the Dominar. And Reyes, this conversation isn't over. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. He didn't outright order us to surrender them, Kai noted quietly. That's something. He's buying time, Elena replied, trying to find a diplomatic solution that doesn't involve either handing over innocent refugees or antagonizing the Concord further. Do you think he'll succeed? Maya asked. Elena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned to Kai. How long until we reach Earth? 4 days at current speed. 3 if we push the engines to emergency levels again. Make it 3, Elena ordered. I want those refugees under Earth's protection as soon as possible. After the shift ended, Elena made her way to the medical bay where the Lyrosi family was recovering. Dr. Levitt met her at the entrance. They're doing remarkably well, the doctor reported. The adults have fully recovered from the strain of the interface. The children are adapting quickly to our environment. They seem more resilient than we initially thought. Have they been told about our conversation with Earth Command? Dr. Levitt nodded. Atlana asked to speak with you when you had a moment. Inside the adapted quarantine chamber, the Lyrosi had created a semblance of home. The lighting had been adjusted to mimic the spectral quality they preferred, and they had arranged the sparse furnishings in geometric patterns that seemed to hold significance for them. The 4 children were gathered around a human tablet, fascinated by the educational game one of the crew had loaded for them. Atlana approached as Elena entered, his scales now vibrant with health, shifting in patterns that she was beginning to recognize as expressions. Commander Reyes. He greeted her, his translator rendering his musical language into crisp English. We have caused you and your people great difficulty. This was never our intention. You haven't caused anything, Elena assured him. The difficulty comes from those who chose not to help when they could have, and from those who hunt your kind. Atlana's scales rippled in what Elena had come to recognize as their equivalent of a sad smile. Yet now your world faces pressure because of us. We have monitored your communications network. Your people are divided on whether to grant us sanctuary. Elena was surprised. You can access our networks. Your information security is different from what we're accustomed to. Atlana replied diplomatically. We meant no intrusion. We only sought to understand the situation fully. And what have you learned? That humans are remarkable. So many voices speaking freely, arguing passionately for both sides. Some fear the consequences of defying the Concord. Others speak with great conviction about principles of compassion and justice. His scales shifted to a deep blue. In our experience, such open debate is rare among advanced civilizations. Most prefer order. Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. She rushed to the nearest communication panel. Bridge, report. Multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace directly in our path. Maya responded urgently. Dominar signatures, Commander. They found us again. How? Elena demanded. The quantum disruption should have broken their tracking ability. Unknown. But they've brought reinforcements this time. 7 ships, including what appears to be a dreadnought-class vessel. Elena turned to Etlana, whose scales had paled to a frightened gray. They must have placed a tracking device on your ship before we found you, she said. Something dormant that activated after we thought we'd lost them. It is possible, Etlana admitted. The Dominar are persistent hunters. All hands to battle stations, Elena ordered through the ship-wide comm. Prepare for emergency evasive maneuvers. She turned back to Etlana. We need your help again. Not the interface. That's too dangerous. But your knowledge. The Dominar have us outgunned and outmatched. We need options. The Lyrosi's scales shifted to a determined gold. There may be a way. My mate and I have been studying your propulsion systems. With modifications, we might be able to create a localized disruption field, similar to what we did in the nebula, but focused specifically on the Dominar ships. I think so. Their physiology is remarkable, already showing signs of recovery, but they pushed themselves to their limits. They'll need time to recuperate. Atlana's eyes focused on Elena, and his translator conveyed his weak but clear words. Did we succeed? Are our children safe? Yes, Elena assured him, resting a hand gently near his upper limb. Thanks to you, we've lost our pursuers. We're on our way to Earth now. The Lyrosi's scales briefly brightened with what Elena had come to recognize as relief. Your species continues to surprise us, Commander Reyes. When no others would help, when all stood by and watched, you alone acted. It's what humans do, Elena replied simply. We help when we can. Perhaps, Etlana said, his voice growing stronger. That is precisely what this galaxy has been missing. As the horizon made the jump toward Earth, Elena knew they still faced significant challenges. Earth's government would have to be convinced to grant sanctuary to the Lyrosi family. The Concord would demand explanations for their violation of non-intervention protocols. And somewhere behind them, the Dominar were undoubtedly regrouping, their hunt delayed but not abandoned. But for now, they had won a victory not just for 6 refugees, but for the principle that compassion should transcend politics, that risking everything to save the innocent was always the right choice. It was a uniquely human perspective in a galaxy that had perhaps grown too accustomed to looking the other way. And as Elena watched her crew, humans who had never encountered aliens before this mission, now working tirelessly to ensure the comfort and recovery of their unexpected passengers, she felt a surge of pride. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and Lyrosi, united by something stronger than fear or protocol. The simple decision to help when helping was needed. The journey home. The horizon glided through hyperspace, its systems humming with a newfound efficiency thanks to the modifications the Lyrosi had made during their brief symbiosis with the ship. Elena stood in the observation lounge, watching the hypnotic patterns of faster-than-light travel stream past the reinforced viewport. Penny for your thoughts, Commander, said Darius, joining her with 2 cups of coffee. Elena accepted one gratefully, just wondering what kind of reception we'll get when we reach Earth. We've violated Concord protocols, antagonized a powerful alien faction, and are harboring refugees that the galactic community seems content to let perish. So, just another Tuesday then, Darius quipped before growing serious. The crew stands with you, you know. Every single one of us. What we did out there, saving that family when everyone else turned away, it was the right thing to do. The right thing isn't always the easy thing, Elena replied. Earth is still finding its place in the Concord. This incident could complicate our position significantly. Their conversation was interrupted by Maya's voice over the comm. Commander Reyes to the bridge. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Elena exchanged a look with Darius. Earlier than expected, she murmured. Time to face the music. When they arrived on the bridge, the main screen displayed the stern face of Admiral Way, Earth's representative to the Concorde and the commander of humanity's still modest space fleet. Commander Reyes, the Admiral began without preamble. I've received some rather disturbing communications from the Concorde regarding your actions in the Arcturus system. Would you care to explain why you've apparently kidnapped members of an unregistered species against direct Concorde orders? Elena straightened. With respect, Admiral, we responded to a distress call that other ships were ignoring. We rescued a family, 2 adults and 4 children, who were being hunted to extinction by the Dominar. Their ship was critically damaged and would have failed completely before any official response could arrive. The Concorde has protocols for a reason, Commander. Non-intervention in disputes between unregistered species. This wasn't a dispute, sir, Elena interrupted, something she would never normally do with a superior officer. This was a family fleeing genocide. Their entire species is being hunted for their biological components. The Dominar harvest their organs while they're still alive. The Admiral's expression hardened, but Elena detected something else beneath his official demeanor, a flicker of conflict. He sighed, glancing off camera briefly before continuing in a lower voice. What's done is done. But you've put Earth in a difficult position, Commander. The Dominar have significant influence in the Concorde. They're already demanding the return of what they call their biological resources. Elena felt her blood run cold. Sir, you can't possibly be considering. In the modified engine room, Atlana and Celera positioned themselves within specially constructed containment fields that allowed their bodies to interface directly with the ship's systems. As the connection established, the horizon's lights flickered, and for a moment, every display on the bridge showed the same pulsing pattern as the Lyrosi's bioluminescent eyes. Interface stable, Darius reported, his voice tinged with awe. Power efficiency up by 32% already. Sensor range extended by a factor of 5. I've never seen anything like this. The ship seemed to come alive around them in a way Elena could feel but not quite define. As if the horizon had suddenly developed instincts and reflexes it hadn't possessed before. Through the interface, Atlana's voice resonated from the ship's speakers. We need to move deeper into the nebula. There are quantum filaments there we can use. Elena didn't hesitate. Helm, follow their guidance. The horizon surged forward with unprecedented grace, weaving through the nebula's outer layers and diving toward its heart. Behind them, the Dominar vessels adjusted course to follow, their weapons charging. They're firing, Kai warned. Before Elena could order evasive action, the horizon banked sharply, responding not to the helm officer's commands, but to the Lyrosi's direct interface. Energy weapons lanced through space where they had been moments before. I've never seen reaction times like this, the helm officer muttered, watching her controls move seemingly of their own accord. As they penetrated deeper into the nebula, visibility dropped dramatically. The view screen compensated, showing an enhanced view of swirling gases and energy filaments that stretched like glowing webs through the void. What exactly are we doing here? Elena asked. The Dominar track us through quantum entanglement, Atlana's voice replied from all around them. Here, among these natural quantum filaments, we can create a cascading disruption that will break those connections, but we must draw them in closer first. You want us to let them catch up? Darius asked incredulously. Yes. We need them within the same filament network for the disruption to affect their tracking systems. Elena trusted her instincts. Do it. Helm, reduce speed. Let them think they're cornering us. The horizon slowed, appearing to struggle through the dense nebula, while actually following a precise path that Atlana and Celera charted through the quantum filaments. The Dominar ships, sensing vulnerability, accelerated eagerly into the trap. "They're entering optimal position," Solera's voice announced. "Preparing disruption sequence." The Horizon's engines began to hum with an unfamiliar resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the ship. On the bridge displays, the surrounding quantum filaments appeared to respond, pulsing in rhythm with the ship's new energy signature. "Disruption in 3, 2, 1. Atlanta counted down. For a brief moment, it seemed as if nothing happened. Then the view screen flared with a cascade of energy as the quantum filaments became visible, lighting up in sequence like a wave spreading outward from the horizon. When it reached the Dominar vessels, their systems visibly faltered, energy discharges crackling across their hulls. "Now," Elena ordered. "Maximum speed. Get us out of here." The Horizon shot forward, its engines pushing beyond normal limits thanks to the Lyrosi interface. Behind them, the Dominar ships drifted, their systems temporarily disabled by the quantum disruption. "It worked," Kai exclaimed. "Their tracking systems are completely scrambled. They're firing blindly, can't get a lock on us. The quantum disruption will only disable them temporarily," Atlanta cautioned, his voice sounding strained through the interface. "But the entanglement patterns they were using to track us have been broken. They will have to start their search anew. That gives us the lead we need," Elena said. "Plot a course for the nearest jump point. We're going home." As they cleared the nebula and prepared to jump, Dr. Levitt's urgent voice came over the comm. "Commander, we need to terminate the interface now. The Lyrosi are showing signs of severe physiological stress." "Understood. Darius, begin disconnection procedures." The transition back to normal operations was less smooth than the initial interface. As Atlanta and Solera were carefully disconnected from the ship's systems, the Horizon shuddered, several non-critical systems temporarily going offline before backup protocols engage. By the time Elena reached the engine room, both Lyrosi adults were being tended to by medical staff. Their normally vibrant scales had dulled to a worrying gray, and their bioluminescent eyes pulsed weakly. "Will they be all right?" she asked Dr. Levitt quietly. Human ingenuity. 3 days into their hyperspace journey toward Earth, the Horizon's bridge was uncharacteristically crowded. In addition to the regular crew, one of the adult Lyrosi, who had introduced himself as Atlanta, stood beside Elena, his iridescent scales shifting through shades of blue and green as he studied the displays. "The Dominar will not abandon their pursuit," Atlanta said, his translated voice carrying a musical quality that the ship speakers couldn't fully capture. "They are persistent, especially when it comes to our kind. We're running silent and on an indirect route," Elena replied. "It will be difficult for them to track us." "Perhaps, but difficult is not impossible." Atlanta's upper limbs moved in what Elena had come to recognize as a gesture of concern. "You do not understand the resources they will commit to this. In their culture, to lose prey once captured is a grave dishonor." "Commander," Kai interrupted from his station, "long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns at our last jump point. Something's following us." Elena straightened. "Dominar. The signature doesn't match exactly, but it's similar. Could be they're using different technology to mask their approach." Atlanta moved closer to the sensor display, his faceted eyes reflecting the holographic data. "This is a hunting configuration. Multiple vessels in formation. They are not merely following. They are actively tracking us." "How?" Darius demanded. "We're running completely dark. Our jump created quantum entanglement patterns they can trace," Atlanta explained. "It is difficult to translate to your physics, but think of it as following footprints in snow that have not yet settled." "How long until they catch up?" Elena asked. Kai performed some quick calculations. "At their current speed, they'll overtake us before we reach the Sol system. Maybe 12 hours. Elena turned to Atlanta. "We need options. Your family risked bringing you to our engineering section before. Is there anything else you can help us with?" The Lyrosi was silent for a moment, his scales shifting to a deeper, more intense blue. There is one possibility, but it would require trust between us. More than you have already given. I'm listening. My species evolved in deep space environments before developing technology. Our bodies naturally interact with electromagnetic and quantum fields in ways yours cannot. With the proper interfaces, we could become part of your ship's systems temporarily, extend its capabilities beyond your design parameters. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. You're talking about some kind of biological interface with our computer systems, Darius asked skeptically. Not merely your computers, Atlanta corrected. Your sensors, your engines, your jump drive. A temporary symbiosis that would allow us to enhance your technology using our natural abilities. Is it dangerous? Elena asked. For us, yes. The process is taxing, and in our weakened state, it carries risk. But my mate and I are willing. For our children, for all that you have risked for us, we can do no less. Elena considered this for a long moment. Would this enhancement allow us to outrun the Dominar? Perhaps, but I believe we could do more than run. Atlanta's scales rippled with what might have been determination. We could create an opportunity to eliminate their ability to track us altogether. After a detailed discussion with her senior officers and Dr. Levitt, who had concerns about the medical implications for their guests, Elena made her decision. They would proceed with Atlanta's plan, but with extensive monitoring and the ability to terminate the interface if the Lyrosi showed any signs of distress. The next 8 hours were a flurry of activity as Darius and his engineering team, working with Atlanta and his mate Solara, modified key systems throughout the ship to accept the biological interface. Dr. Levitt supervised the medical aspects, ensuring the Lyrosi would not be harmed in the process. The children remained in the quarantine chamber, watched over by volunteer crew members who had developed a rapport with the young aliens despite the communication barriers. Finally, everything was ready. The Horizon dropped out of hyperspace near a dense nebula, a calculated risk that would make them briefly visible to their pursuers, but would also provide the environmental conditions Atlanta needed for their plan. Dominar vessels have changed course, Kai reported. They've detected us. 4 ships converging on our position. 18 minutes until they're in weapons range. Elena nodded to Dr. Levitt. Begin the interface. Now kill all non-essential systems and prepare for the heat dump, Elena ordered. On my mark, vent all accumulated waste heat toward that large nickel-iron asteroid, then immediate full burn toward the jump point using the debris for cover. When the Dominar vessel detected the multiple signatures suddenly appearing, it hesitated, its weapons systems trying to determine which target to pursue. In that moment of confusion, the Horizon vented its accumulated thermal energy against the nearby asteroid, flash heating its surface and causing an explosion of superheated rock and metal. Now, Elena shouted. The Horizon's engines flared to life, propelling the ship through the debris cloud and on a direct course to the jump point. Behind them, the Dominar vessel fired blindly into the expanding cloud of heat signatures and asteroid fragments, unable to get a clean lock on their true position. It worked, Kai exclaimed. They're pursuing 2 of the drones. We've got a clear run to the jump point. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Don't celebrate yet. How long until we reach the jump point? 17 minutes at current speed. And how long until they figure out they're chasing decoys? Kai's expression sobered. 10 minutes, maybe less. Push the engines to emergency levels, Elena ordered. We need every second we can get. The Horizon surged forward, its frame vibrating as the engines strained beyond their recommended limits. The jump point grew steadily larger on their display, a shimmering distortion in space that would allow them to make the leap to hyperspace. Commander, Maya called suddenly. I'm receiving a transmission from the refugee chamber. Dr. Levitt says one of the adults is insisting on speaking with you. Says it's urgent. Put it through to my station. The translated voice of the Lyrosi adult was melodic despite the electronic rendering. "Commander Rise, you must listen. The Dominar possess technology that can disrupt your jump field. When they realize they are pursuing false targets, they will employ it to prevent your escape." Elena felt her stomach tighten. "Is there any way to counter it?" "Yes," the Lyrosi responded. "If you will allow me access to your engine control systems, I can make modifications that will shield our jump signature from their disruptors." Elena hesitated. Allowing an unknown alien access to their critical systems went against every security protocol. But they were already far beyond protocols at this point. "Darius, escort Dr. Levitt and our guest to engineering. Give them whatever assistance they need." Minutes later, as the horizon closed in on the jump point, the tactical display lit up with warnings. "They figured it out," Kai announced tensely. "The Dominar vessel has changed course and is coming straight for us. They're charging what appears to be some kind of energy disruptor. Time to jump point. 3 minutes. Time until they're in disruptor range. 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Helena tightened her grip on her chair. Status of the engine modifications. "Complete," Darius reported from engineering. "The Lyrosi says it should work, but he can't guarantee it. This is theoretical for them too. It will have to do. All hands, secure for emergency jump." This could get rough. As the Dominar ship closed the distance, its massive disruptor array glowing with building energy, the horizon made its final approach to the jump point. The modified engines hummed with an odd harmonic that seemed to phase in and out of normal hearing. Disruptor firing in 3, 2, 1. Kai counted down. A wave of energy washed over the horizon, making the lights flicker and displays momentarily scramble. For a heartbeat, Elena thought they had failed. Then the jump point enveloped them, stretching reality around the ship before catapulting them into hyperspace. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Elena remained tense. "Damage report. Minor systems fluctuations, but the modifications held," Darius reported with evident relief. "We made it, Commander." Elena finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "Set course for Earth, and someone find out what our guests might like to eat. I think we all deserve a proper meal." As the horizon streaked through hyperspace toward home, Elena knew they had won this battle. But the war was just beginning. They had defied the Concord, antagonized a powerful alien faction, and were harboring refugees that nobody wanted to help. Earth would have some difficult decisions to make. But for now, 6 lives had been saved that would otherwise have been lost. And sometimes, Elena thought, that had to be enough. "The adults are in bad shape," Dr. Levitt continued. "Severe decompression injuries. The young ones are more resilient, but they're still critical. We've established temporary atmospheric containment, but we need to move them ASAP. Understood. Begin evacuation immediately." "There's something else," Dr. Levitt added, her voice dropping. "The adults are trying to communicate. They're warning about the Dominar, saying they're not just running from persecution. They're running from extinction. The Dominar have been systematically hunting their entire species." Elena felt a chill run through her. "Get them aboard now. We'll sort out the details once they're safe." Over the next 20 minutes, the rescue team carefully transferred the alien refugees to the horizon. Medical had converted their largest quarantine chamber into a makeshift habitat with the closest approximation of the aliens' atmosphere they could manage. It wasn't ideal, but it would keep them alive. "All refugees secured," Dr. Levitt reported finally, retracting emergency umbilical. 18 minutes until Dominar intercept, Kai warned. Elena made her decision. Set course for the nearest jump point. Maximum sustainable speed. The Horizon's engines flared to life, pushing the ship away from the damaged alien vessel. Behind them, the refugee ship drifted lifelessly. Its purpose served. "Commander," Maya called, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from the approaching Dominar vessel. They're demanding we heave to and prepare to be boarded." "Ignore it," Elena ordered. "Kai, what's our status?" "We've got a problem," The jump point is on the other side of the system. Even at maximum burn, the Dominar vessel will intercept us before we reach it. Options. Darius looked up from his engineering console. We could try to lose them in the asteroid field. It would be risky, but the Horizon is more maneuverable than that behemoth they're flying. Do it, Elena commanded. Plot a course through the densest part of the field. The Horizon banked sharply, diving toward the sprawling belt of tumbling rocks that circled the system's star. Behind them, the massive Dominar vessel adjusted its course to follow, its weapons systems powering up. They're charging weapons, Kai reported tensely. Evasive maneuvers. Use the asteroids for cover. The next few minutes were tense as the Horizon weaved through the asteroid field, the larger Dominar ships struggling to keep pace. Several shots from their pursuers' weapons struck nearby asteroids, shattering them into clouds of debris that the Horizon barely managed to avoid. This isn't working, Kai said after a particularly close call. They're herding us away from the jump point. At this rate, we'll never reach it. Elena studied the tactical display, mind racing. What about the survey drones? How many do we have ready to deploy? 8 fully charged, Darius replied. Why? Could we modify them to emit false engine signatures? Make them look like us on sensors? Understanding dawned in Darius's eyes. We could. It wouldn't fool them for long, but it might buy us some time. Do it, and prepare to vent our waste heat in a controlled burst when I give the signal. While Darius and his team worked frantically to modify the survey drones, Elena visited the quarantine chamber where the alien refugees were being treated. Dr. Levitt met her at the entrance. How are they? Elena asked. Stabilizing, but they need specialized care we can't provide. The doctor replied. I've been able to communicate with one of the adults. They call themselves the Lyrosi. They're a nomadic species, few in number but highly advanced in certain technologies. The Dominar have been hunting them for generations. Why? Apparently for their bioluminescent organs, Dr. Levitt said grimly. The Dominar believe consuming them grants extended longevity. There's no scientific basis for it, but it's driven them to nearly wipe out the entire Lyrosi species. Elena looked through the observation window at the family huddled together in the chamber. The young ones clung to their parents, their luminescent eyes pulsing with what she somehow knew was fear. Tell them we're going to get them somewhere safe, she said firmly. And where would that be, Commander? Dr. Levitt asked. The Concorde won't help. They've made that clear. Earth, Elena replied without hesitation. We'll take them to Earth. When Elena returned to the bridge, Darius had completed the modifications to the survey drones. Drones ready to deploy, he reported. Each one should register as a ship-sized heat signature for about 20 minutes before the emitters burn out. Good. Deploy them in a dispersal pattern toward these coordinates. Elena marked several points on the tactical display, creating a fan-shaped array leading away from their current position. The Horizon shuddered slightly as the drones launched, each one immediately accelerating in a different direction. Elena's reply was brief. Noted. We'll accept responsibility for our actions. Humanity will remember who chose to stand by while children died today. The bridge fell silent as the Horizon approached the alien vessel. Through the viewports, they could now see the extensive damage. Whatever had happened to this ship, it wasn't an accident. The hull breaches showed signs of weapon impacts. We've got a problem, Darius called from engineering. Their docking mechanisms are completely incompatible with ours. We can't establish a standard seal. Elena thought quickly. What about the emergency umbilical? The flexible connector we use for space station maintenance. It might work, Darius said hesitantly. But we'd have no idea if their atmosphere is compatible with ours. We'd need full EVA gear. Prepare it anyway. We'll need a rescue team in full isolation suits. As the crew scrambled to prepare for the rescue, Elena opened a channel to the alien vessel again. This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth ship Horizon. We're coming to help you. Please respond with any information that might assist our rescue efforts. After a moment, A weak response came through. Gratitude. Caution. Hunters may return. Family of 6. 2 adults, 4 young. Atmosphere methane-nitrogen blend. Pressure 3/4 your standard. Elena relayed the atmospheric information to medical, who confirmed they could synthesize a compatible environment in one of their quarantine chambers. It wouldn't be perfect, but it might keep the aliens alive until they reached a proper facility. "Commander," Maya called, her voice urgent. "I'm detecting a new signal at the edge of the system. Large vessel, approaching fast." Before Elena could respond, a new transmission cut across their communications, a harsh, guttural sound that the translator struggled to process. "All vessels withdraw. The fugitives are property of the Dominar hierarchy. Interference will be met with immediate force." "They weren't just running from an accident," Kai said quietly. "They're refugees." Elena looked at the damaged alien ship, then at the approaching vessel that dwarfed even the Concorde patrol. The Concorde and other ships were already breaking position, clearly unwilling to get involved in whatever conflict was unfolding. "How long until that ship reaches us?" she asked. 35 minutes at current speed," Maya replied. Elena nodded. "Then we have 35 minutes to get those people aboard. Tell the rescue team to move fast." As the horizon extended its emergency umbilical toward the damaged vessel, Elena watched the distant stars. She had no idea what consequences this day would bring, but she knew she would never regret trying to help. After all, that's what humans did best, extending a hand when others turned away. What she couldn't know was that this simple act of compassion would soon change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Against all odds. The emergency umbilical stretched between the horizon and the damaged alien vessel, like a lifeline thrown across the void. Through the bridge viewport, Elena watched the rescue team make their way through the flexible tube, their EVA suits bulky against the delicate connector. "Rescue team has reached the alien vessel," Maya reported. "They're cutting through what appears to be an emergency bulkhead. 28 minutes until the Dominar ship arrives," Kai added, his eyes fixed on the long-range sensors. Elena nodded, trying to project calm she didn't entirely feel. The Horizon was a survey vessel, not a warship. Its armaments were defensive at best, designed to destroy incoming asteroids or debris, not to engage hostile ships. If it came to a confrontation, they would be hopelessly outmatched. "Tell the rescue team to hurry," she said, "and keep trying to contact the Concorde patrol. Remind them that we have civilians aboard, including children." "The Concorde vessel is maintaining communications silence," Maya replied with a hint of disgust. "They've moved to a position behind the second moon. I think they're trying to avoid being associated with our actions." A new voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, this is Dr. Levitt. You need to see this." Elena activated her personal display. The image showed what appeared to be the interior of the alien vessel, illuminated by the rescue team's lights. What she saw made her breath catch. The aliens were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Their bodies were sleek and graceful, covered in iridescent scales similar to their ship's exterior. They had 4 upper limbs that branched into delicate manipulators and moved with liquid grace despite their obviously weakened state. But most striking were their eyes, large, faceted, and glowing with a soft bioluminescence that pulsed in rhythm with their breathing. First contact in crisis. The survey ship Horizon drifted at the edge of the Arcturus system, its sensors methodically mapping the asteroid field that stretched like a celestial river before them. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, watching as data scrolled across her display. This was their 3rd month of the survey mission, documenting potential mining sites for Earth's expanding resource needs. "Another day, another rock," muttered Lieutenant Kai Chen from the sensor station. "At least the overtime pay is good." Elena smiled. Surveying wasn't glamorous work, but it was important. Humanity had only recently developed reliable faster-than-light travel, making them newcomers to a galactic community that had been established for millennia. Earth needed resources to catch up, and ships like the Horizon were essential to finding them. "Commander," called Communications Officer Maya Santos, her voice suddenly tense, "I'm picking up something strange. Definitely artificial, but it's not matching any known configuration in our database." Alina's pulse quickened. In the 5 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Concord, encounters with new species were rare and handled by diplomatic vessels, not survey ships with minimal weapons and a crew of 20. "Put it on screen," she ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The main display flickered, showing what was unmistakably a ship, but unlike any she'd seen before. Its hull was composed of overlapping plates that resembled iridescent scales, currently punctured in multiple places. The vessel tumbled slowly through space, trailing debris and what appeared to be atmosphere venting from several breaches. "Life signs?" Alina asked, moving closer to the display. "Faint, but present," replied Kai, reading 6 distinct signatures. "They're fluctuating. Whatever life support they have is failing. Any other ships in range?" Maya checked her instruments. "Yes, Commander. I'm detecting 3 vessels at the edge of our sensor range. One appears to be a Raxian merchant ship, another Voth diplomatic transport, and a Concord patrol vessel." Alina frowned. "They must be picking up the distress signal too. Are they moving to assist?" "Negative. They're maintaining position." Maya paused, listening to her headset. "I'm receiving a transmission from the Concord vessel. Text only." The message appeared on Alina's screen. "Human vessel Horizon. VADVISED. The UNIDNTIFIE ship. Kerais ino RDCOG NISD contourdi ORIJSTRI. Protocols. DICT8 inaloten NT or V intion. P ending official ASCSS. Maintain your distance. They're just going to watch." Engineer Darius Jackson asked incredulously from his station. Alina felt a chill run through her. "Open a channel to the damaged vessel." After a moment of static, the speakers emitted a series of musical tones overlaid with clicking sounds. The ship's AI worked to decipher the pattern, and soon translated text scrolled across Alina's display. "Help. Children dying. Ship failing. Others watch but do not help. Please." The message repeated, growing weaker with each iteration. "What's their status, Mr. Chen?" Alina demanded. Kai's fingers danced across his console. "Hull integrity at 23%. Internal atmosphere venting rapidly. Primary power system appears to be offline, running on emergency reserves that are nearly depleted. Based on current readings, they've got maybe 2 hours before complete system failure." "And the Concord Patrol is just watching," Alina murmured, her jaw tightening. "How long would it take an official rescue vessel to reach them?" Maya checked the protocols. "Nearest Concord emergency response vessel is stationed at Proxima Relay. Minimum arrival time, 26 hours. They'll be dead long before then," Darius said quietly. Alina stood motionless for a moment, weighing her options. The Concord had been clear about non-intervention. As newcomers to galactic society, humanity was expected to follow established protocols without question. Violating those protocols could have diplomatic consequences for Earth. But 6 lives hung in the balance, including children. "Plot an intercept course," Alina ordered. "All hands to emergency stations. Darius, prep the maintenance spots for external repairs. Maya, inform medical to prepare for possible xenobiological patients." Her officers exchanged glances, but moved to comply immediately. "Commander," Maya said hesitantly, "the Concord directive." "I read it." Alina cut her off. "Send them our response. While the Concord deliberates, the Horizon will render humanitarian assistance, as per Earth Emergency Protocol 7. We cannot in good conscience watch children die when we have the means to help." As the Horizon changed course toward the damaged vessel, Alina received another message from the Concord Patrol. "Human vessel Horizon. FILWARNING. intervention may result in diplomatic sanctions against Earth species of UN biological contamination risk.